economy, open our borders, riddle us with Islamism. On that list as well, on that list as well would be, I don't know, controlling us through digital ID. Of course he's going to do it. He's going to ram it through, isn't he?
Yeah, look, this is a snapshot of the utter madness of these socialist idiots completely ruining this country right now. I talk, of course, about the Labour government. Let's talk about the digital ID scheme. So Keir Starmer now telling every government department to make serious savings in order to raise £1.8 billion to fund the first stages of the digital ID scheme. It's going to cost a lot more than that in the long term. So all services will suffer for this. Now, what are we talking about here? This is a scheme that isn't necessary and no one wants. So why the hell is he proposing to cut back government services across the board for something, digital ID cards that aren't necessary and no one in this country wants? What on earth is this utter idiot thinking? Honestly.
Well, try and answer that question yourself there, Kev, because I quite want to know. Because this thing is, it's not just come out of nowhere. Starmer isn't actually stupid. That's what's so scary about this. He's not stupid. The Labour Party have had this plan for ages, or those Fabian
Tony Blair obsession. Yeah. Tony Blair obsession. Don't forget, he's been trying to get this through. I think it was the last time he was in power, he tried to get it through, and such was the magnitude of the opposition around the country, from the people, from politicians, that even Blair decided this isn't worth the problems, this isn't worth the trouble. But Blair has never given up on his obsession. Labour have always been obsessed with this because, of course, it makes them more like their heroes in China and Russia and all those totalitarian socialist communist countries where they treat their citizens like little cogs in the state machine. That's all this is about. It is about dehumanizing us and turning us into little bits of the state machine, that our role is to serve the state, to be useful to the state, to be a statistic for the state. And as far as I'm concerned, the state can go and do one. It can go and shove itself where the sun don't shine, because what I stand for, I think you stand for, is the power of the individual over the power of the state. These people running this country, they don't care about individuals. The power of the state is everything to them. And that is why, with every fibre of every citizen's body in this country, we must fight this digital ID for all we are worth. We really must.
We must. But you know, this is what I'm saying. The scary thing about Starmer is I think he's more determined than Blair. Blair at least had like a sort of kill switch where it's like, right, people really don't want to do this,
exactly
so
right.
I won't do it. Starmer's like, oh, you're going to protest against this? I'll just put them all in prison then. He's scary. And on that note, this whole thing with X, right, that to me is absolutely crazy, because this is what they do. I've seen this strategy now. First of all, their favourite line to say is, because it's the right thing to do. They make out all these global elites like they are the bastions of morality. I remember Ursula von der Leyen, when Donald Trump said, right, we're not having that Thierry Breton coming to the US, thank you very much, you know, the EU's information commissioner. She says, we in the EU Commission, we are the stronghold, the fortress of representing European ideals and values. I'm like, woman, you ain't even elected. You were supposed to be elected. The system was supposed to change, and who overruled that? You did, madam. European values, my backside. But then this is what they do. They will create a faux moral crisis.
Yes.
Certain elements of the mainstream media or legacy media just chew it up. So all of a sudden with X, it's like, oh, there's deep fakes on AI on Grok. Well, do you know what? Go after the people making them deep fakes, arrest them, put them in prison, get on the blower to the people at Grok and be like, you've got to put something in your systems to prevent people from doing this. Great, solve the problem. But no, you had that sort of chilling instruction to Ofcom to use every power in their capability. You know, one of the multi-million horsemen of the apocalypse in the form of a Quango. And it's like, oh, let's try and close down X. They've been trying to do that out of the EU ever since he took it over, because instead of being able to control it, as the Biden lot did with Twitter, Instead of being able to say, right, don't put anything about Hunter Biden's laptop on there, don't tell the truth about what's going on during the pandemic, you know, instead of being able to control it, they no longer can. So it means that people can share information. We get the news, quite frankly, far quicker on X than we do from this rubbish on the screen.
Please subscribe to my channel. Now let's watch this together, and I'll share my thoughts at the end. Because what you are seeing right here is not just another political argument. This is a snapshot of the utter madness currently unfolding in Britain. And yes, I'm talking about the Labour government. What we are witnessing is a group of ideological extremists wrapped in suits and slogans, who are systematically dismantling individual freedom and replacing it with state control. Let's start with the so-called digital ID scheme. Keir Starmer has now instructed every government department to make serious savings, not to fix the NHS, not to reduce waiting lists, not to ease the cost of living crisis, but to raise £1.8 billion for the first stage of a digital ID system. And let's be absolutely clear, £1.8 billion is only the beginning. This will cost many billions more in the long run. So services will suffer. Budgets will be cut. Communities will pay the price. All for a scheme that isn't necessary, a scheme that nobody asked for, and a scheme that the British public does not want. So the obvious question is, why? Why would a government slash services across the board to force through something that people overwhelmingly oppose? What on earth is Keir Starmer thinking? And here's the uncomfortable truth. Starmer is not stupid. That's what makes this dangerous. This hasn't come out of nowhere. This is not accidental. This is ideological. The Labour Party, and particularly its Fabian, Blairite wing, has been obsessed with digital ID for decades. Tony Blair tried to push this through the last time Labour were in power. And even Blair, no champion of liberty, eventually backed off. Why? Because the opposition was overwhelming. From the public, from politicians, from across the country, Blair decided it wasn't worth the backlash. But he never gave up on the idea. And now Starmer is back, more determined, more authoritarian, and far more willing to crush dissent. Labour's obsession with digital ID has nothing to do with efficiency, nothing to do with safety, nothing to do with convenience. It has everything to do with control. This is about turning citizens into data points, reducing human beings into state-managed units, tracking, monitoring, categorizing, and ultimately controlling behavior. This is the model they admire. China, Russia, other totalitarian states where the individual exists only to serve the system. And let's say it plainly, that is not Britain. We are not cogs in a machine. We are not statistics for the state. We are individuals with rights, autonomy, and freedom. And any government that tries to reverse that must be resisted with every fiber of our being. This digital ID scheme must be fought relentlessly. Because once it exists, it will not stop at convenience. It will expand. It always does. Access to services. Access to work. Access to speech. Access to travel. No ID, no life. That is the road we are being pushed down. And here's the terrifying part. Starmer is more dangerous than Blair ever was. Blair at least had a political kill switch. When public opposition became too loud, he backed off. Starmer doesn't back off. You protest. You're an extremist. You speak out. You're a threat. You resist. You're criminalized. This is a man who looks at public opposition and thinks, I'll just lock them up. That's not leadership. That's authoritarianism. And this brings us neatly to what's happening with X. Because this is the same playbook. First, they manufacture a moral panic. It's the right thing to do. Think of the children. Think of the harm. And the legacy media, desperate, dying, obedient, swallow it whole. So suddenly it's, oh no, AI deepfakes. Oh no, harmful content. Now let's be clear. Yes, deepfakes are a problem. Yes, illegal content should be dealt with. But the solution is obvious. Go after the criminals. Arrest them. Prosecute them. Force platforms to improve safeguards. Problem solved. But that's not what Labour wants. Instead, we get chilling instructions to Ofcom, an unelected quango with enormous power, to use every tool at its disposal. Translation, regulate, intimidate, and if possible, shut it down. Why? Because they can't control X. They controlled Twitter. They controlled narratives. They controlled what you were allowed to see. No Hunter Biden laptop stories. No pandemic dissent. No inconvenient truths. Now they can't. Information moves too fast. People communicate freely. The monopoly is broken. And that terrifies them. We get news faster on X than we ever do from the talking heads on television. That's why the global elite wants it gone. So they create a scare story. They weaponize morality. They scream danger and demand censorship. But shutting down a platform because of bad actors is like going to hospital with an ingrown toenail and being told, "We'll fix that by amputating your leg." That is the level of insanity we're dealing with. Yes, there are problems online. No, the solution is not mass censorship and digital surveillance. The real reason they hate X is simple. They hate Elon Musk. They hate free speech. And they hate the public talking to each other without permission. Social media has completely transformed politics. The gatekeepers are gone. The filters are broken. The people have a voice. And they want that voice silenced. That is what digital ID is really about. That is what regulating X is really about. Power. State power over individual freedom. This isn't left versus right anymore. It's state versus citizen. And history shows us how this ends if people stay silent. So no, this is not paranoia. This is not exaggeration. This is a warning. If this government gets its way, Britain will not be freer, safer, or fairer. It will be more controlled, more monitored, more obedient. And that is why this fight matters. Because once freedom is gone, you don't vote it back.